In the year 2184, Earth was no longer just a planet. It had become a crucible of evolution, an arena where the fiercest warriors were forged. The hum of life was different here, a constant reminder that survival was the name of the game. I stood on the edge of what was once Miami, now a high-tech metropolis bristling with advancements that blended nature with technology. Towering skyscrapers wound around ancient trees, their branches providing shade for the streets below, where enhanced humans trained for the next threat looming from the stars. My name is Kael, a soldier molded by the trials of this new Earth. Every morning, I woke to the sound of synthetic birds chirping alongside real ones, the hum of hover vehicles above blending with the calls of the creatures that had inspired our enhancements. I was one of many who had undergone the genetic manipulation that made us stronger, faster, more resilient. But I was also one of the few still grappling with the implications of it all. As I trained, my thoughts often drifted to the beasts whose DNA had been woven into our very being. I had the strength of a lion, the speed of a cheetah, and yet there was a constant battle within me, the warrior instincts clashing with the humanity that remained. The day began like any other, but there was an undercurrent in the air, a tension that buzzed like a swarm of hornets. I strapped on my gear, a sleek suit that melded with my skin, enhancing my abilities. The technology was the latest in human innovation, designed to optimize our genetic modifications. As I stepped out into the training grounds, I noticed my fellow warriors engaged in intense combat drills, pushing their limits, honing their skills. They were a fierce bunch, brothers in arms, but there was something unsettling today. "Kael!" a voice shouted from behind me. I turned to see Dr. Theo, our lead scientist and the architect of our enhancements. He was a man of brilliance, his mind sharp as a tack, but his frame frail and thin. "We need to talk. It's urgent." His brow was furrowed, an unusual expression for someone typically so composed. "What is it?" I asked, wiping the sweat from my brow. I could see the urgency in his eyes. "Another breakthrough." "No, it's the Thraxxians." He glanced around, ensuring no one was within earshot. "They're mobilizing. Reports indicate they've set their sights on Earth, and their invasion fleet is already in orbit." I felt a chill run down my spine. The Thraxxians were a reptilian race known for their advanced technology and brutal efficiency in war. They had previously clashed with humanity in skirmishes that left entire cities in ruins. Our enhancements had been designed with the Thraxxians in mind, a preparation for a conflict that many believed was inevitable. "Are we ready?" I asked, a knot tightening in my stomach. "What do we know about their numbers?" "More than we can handle if we don't act quickly. We need to unify the warriors. The Ithalians are already on their way to aid us, but the Vorathians, they could tip the balance if they decide to join the Thraxxians instead." "Then let's move," I said, the instinct to protect my home kicking in. "Gather the troops. We need to prepare for a fight." As we made our way to the command center, I felt the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders. I was more than just a soldier. I was a symbol of hope for those around me. But with hope came doubt. What if our enhancements weren't enough? What if we weren't ready to face an enemy like the Thraxxians? The thought gnawed at me, but I pushed it aside. Doubt had no place on the battlefield. The command center buzzed with activity. Holo screens displayed the latest intel, images of the Thraxxian fleet hovering ominously above Earth, their ships dark and menacing against the backdrop of space. I could see the fear in the eyes of my fellow warriors, a mixture of determination and trepidation. They were ready to fight, but I could sense the uncertainty lingering beneath the surface. "Listen up," I shouted, silencing the chatter. "We're facing an enemy that doesn't know mercy. The Thraxxians have come for our home, and we will not let them take it without a fight. We are the fiercest warriors the galaxy has ever known, forged from the best of what Earth has to offer. We will show them the true meaning of resilience." The room erupted in cheers, the energy shifting as fear was replaced with resolve. I glanced at Theo, who nodded approvingly. He had been with me through every trial, always ready to provide the scientific backbone to our physical prowess. As the meeting concluded, I found myself standing in the training arena, alone. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, trying to center myself amidst the chaos of thoughts racing through my mind. Suddenly, a loud explosion reverberated through the air, shaking the ground beneath me. The alarms blared, red lights flashing as I raced toward the source of the disturbance. When I arrived, the scene was chaotic. A Thraxian dropship had landed in the city center, its ramp lowered to unleash a squad of armored soldiers. They were terrifying scales glinting under the sunlight, weapons drawn and ready. My heart raced as I took in the sight. This was the moment we had prepared for, the moment our training was designed to combat. "Kael," a voice called out. It was my friend and fellow warrior, Marcus. "We need to fall back. They're breaching the perimeter." "Not without a fight," I replied, adrenaline surging through my veins. I felt the power of my enhancements kick in, and with a shout, I charged forward, leading the charge against the encroaching enemy. My mind was a flurry of thoughts and instincts, my body moving with a grace I had barely known before the enhancements. The Thraxians were fierce opponents, but we were not without our own advantages. As I engaged the nearest soldier, I felt the strength of a bear coursing through me, my fist connecting with brutal force. The sound of metal on metal rang out as I dodged a plasma blast, returning fire with a swift strike of my own. Around me, chaos reigned. Warriors fought alongside me, each embodying the ferocity of the animals from which our enhancements were derived. We were a symphony of combat, each note a testament to the strength of Earth's spirit. But even as we pushed forward, I felt a gnawing sensation of dread. This was just the beginning. As the last Thraxian soldier fell, I couldn't shake the feeling that our victory was merely a reprieve. We had won this battle, but the war was far from over. My gaze turned skyward, where the ominous fleet hovered like a storm cloud ready to unleash chaos upon us. What lay ahead was a path littered with uncertainty, a journey into the heart of darkness that would test the very essence of what it meant to be human. I tightened my grip on my weapon, ready to face whatever challenges awaited us, knowing that the true strength of humanity lay not just in our enhancements, but in our unyielding spirit to rise against any threat. As I looked at my fellow warriors, determination ignited within me. Together, we would uncover the secrets behind our enhancements, rally our allies, and ultimately redefine our place in the galaxy. The Thraxians may have underestimated us, but they would soon learn that Earth bred warriors like no other, and we were ready to show them just how fierce we could be. The chaos of the battle was still fresh in my mind as we regrouped at the command center. The energy buzzed with the aftermath of the fight, and the faces of my fellow warriors reflected a mix of triumph and concern. We had fended off the Thraxians this time, but I could sense that we were merely postponing the inevitable. "Kael," Theo said, stepping into the room, his expression grim. "We need to analyze the data from the battle. There's more at stake here than just the defense of Earth." I nodded, understanding the weight of his words. "What do you mean?" "The Thraxians weren't just here to probe our defenses. They've brought a full invasion force, and their fleet is equipped with technology far beyond what we've encountered before. We need to understand their strategy if we're to stand a chance." Theo was right. We needed to gather intelligence and analyze the technology we had seen in the heat of battle. As I took a seat at the holo table, images of the Thraxian ships flickered to life, their angular designs and menacing structures filling the screen. I could see the power they wielded, the energy weapons, the cloaking technology that allowed them to move unnoticed, the efficiency of their tactical maneuvers. "Look at this," Theo pointed at the screen, where a 3D model of the Thraxian dropship was displayed. "This armor plating is designed to absorb kinetic energy, making it resistant to conventional weaponry. We need to find a way to counter that." A hand raised in the back of the room, and I turned to see Marcus, my trusted friend and fellow soldier. "What if we developed a pulse weapon? Something that can disrupt their energy field without relying on direct impact." "Exactly," Theo exclaimed, enthusiasm igniting in his eyes. "We can harness the bioenergy from our enhancements to power the pulse weapon. It might just give us the edge we need." As we strategized, I felt the tension in the room shift. We were no longer simply reacting to the Thraxian threat. We were becoming proactive, taking control of our fate. The energy of determination filled me, driving me to rally my comrades. "Let's split into teams," I said, my voice steady and commanding. "One group will focus on weapon development with Theo. The other will continue to train and prepare for the next wave of attacks. We cannot allow ourselves to become complacent." With renewed purpose, we split into our designated teams, and I moved to the training grounds to prepare my fellow warriors. The air crackled with intensity as we practiced maneuvers and combat techniques, each warrior pushing themselves to the limits. We were not just fighting for survival, we were fighting for our very identity, our right to exist as a species unyielding in the face of adversity. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the city, I noticed a shadowy figure approaching. It was one of the Vorathians, a massive warrior named Gracthar, known for his brute strength and fierce reputation. He approached slowly, and the warriors nearby paused, unsure of his intentions. "Gracthar," I greeted him, maintaining a level of respect despite our differing backgrounds. The Vorathians had been neutral in past conflicts, often choosing to stay out of skirmishes, but their presence here suggested they were willing to ally with us. "What brings you to our command?" "The Thraxxians threaten all, not just humans," Gracthar rumbled, his voice deep and resonant. "We want to fight. We want to protect what is ours." I felt a surge of hope. "Then stand with us, and together we can push them back. Your strength will be a great asset in the battles to come." Gracthar nodded, a slight smile breaking through his fierce exterior. "We will show them the fury of our alliance." With Gracthar's endorsement, we began integrating the Vorathian warriors into our ranks. They brought with them a raw power that complemented our enhanced abilities, and soon our training sessions transformed into a blend of styles, each warrior learning from the other. We became a unit, a living testament to the strength of our diversity, united by a common purpose. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. Theo and his team worked tirelessly to develop the pulse weapon, while Marcus and I oversaw training and strategizing with our new allies. Each dawn brought a renewed sense of urgency as we honed our skills, pushing each other to become better, stronger. Then, on the morning of the 5th day, alarms blared throughout the city. The Thraxxians were launching a second wave, and this time they had brought reinforcements. A massive fleet descended from the skies, blotting out the sun, their ships hovering ominously like a predator stalking its prey. "Everyone to your positions," I shouted, adrenaline surging through me. I could feel the weight of my weapon in my hands, the familiar rush of battle readiness flooding my senses. As we took our positions, I glanced around at my comrades, each face resolute, each warrior prepared to fight for Earth and for one another. The Thraxxian ships loomed closer, their menacing forms casting long shadows over the battlefield. I steadied my breath, focusing on the fight ahead. We had trained for this moment, and there was no room for fear. The first wave of Thraxxian soldiers dropped from their ships, the ground shaking as they landed with a thud. Their scales glimmered in the sunlight, weapons ready and eyes gleaming with malevolence. With a roar, they charged forward, but we met them with equal ferocity. "Now!" I shouted as we unleashed a barrage of plasma fire. The pulse weapons we had developed over the past days glowed with energy, releasing blinding bursts that struck the Thraxxians with overwhelming force. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. Their armor flickered as our shots made contact, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. The battle raged on, the ground littered with debris, and the cries of warriors echoing in the chaos. I fought alongside Marcus and Gracthar, our combined forces pushing back against the Thraxxians. Each victory fueled our resolve, and as we pressed forward, I felt the tide of battle shifting. But then, as we surged ahead, a massive Thraxxian warlord emerged from the fray, towering over the battlefield. His scales were darker than the others, a deep black that absorbed the light around him. He wielded a massive energy sword, its blade crackling with deadly energy. "Fall back," I yelled, but the Thraxxian warlord was upon us before we could react. He swung his sword with devastating force, and I barely managed to dodge, feeling the heat of the energy blade singe my arm. Stay together, I called out, my heart racing. We can take him down if we focus. The three of us regrouped, our backs against one another as we prepared to face this new threat. I could see the determination in Marcus's eyes, the fierce spirit of the Vorathians bolstering our courage. We charged forward as one, our combined efforts aiming to overwhelm the warlord. As we fought, I noticed something peculiar. The warlord's movements were calculated, almost methodical, as if he were toying with us. My instincts kicked in, and I began to anticipate his attacks. With each swing of his sword, I found openings, areas where we could strike back. Now, I yelled, and with a synchronized effort, we launched our final assault. I feinted left, drawing the warlord's attention, while Marcus and Gracthar flanked him. With a powerful strike, Marcus hit the warlord's knee, and Gracthar followed up with a massive blow to his side, forcing him off balance. In that moment, I saw my opportunity. I surged forward, channeling every ounce of strength and energy I had left. With a roar, I struck the warlord's weapon, redirecting its energy back toward him. The explosion lit up the battlefield, and as the dust settled, I stood breathless, waiting to see if we had succeeded. When the smoke cleared, the warlord lay defeated, his body sprawled on the ground. The battlefield fell silent, and I could hardly believe it. We had done it. Together, we had pushed back a formidable opponent and sent a clear message to the Thraxxians. But as I caught my breath, I looked up at the sky, where the rest of the Thraxxian fleet loomed ominously. This was just one battle in a larger war, and I knew that the true test was yet to come. With the warlord defeated, the air around us crackled with a mix of exhilaration and unease. We had won a significant battle, but as I surveyed the battlefield, the reality of our situation settled over me like a thick fog. The Thraxxian fleet still loomed in the sky, a stark reminder that the war was far from over. We returned to the command center, adrenaline still pumping through our veins. The tension was palpable as we gathered in the war room, each of us acutely aware of the gravity of our situation. I could see Theo hunched over a holographic display, aglow his focused face. "Kael," Theo said, looking up as we entered. "We've got a problem. The Thraxxians are regrouping, and it looks like they're planning something big." "Big how?" I asked, my heart racing. "Their intelligence suggests they're bringing in a superweapon, something that could tip the balance in their favor," he explained, pulling up a schematics map of the Thraxxian fleet. "If they unleash it, we'll need to be ready to counter it, and I don't know if our current arsenal is enough." "Then we need to upgrade our defenses," I said, glancing around the room at my comrades. "We need to know everything we can about this weapon. Theo, can we intercept their communications? We need intel." "We've been trying, but the Thraxxians are tight-lipped. They use advanced encryption, and I'm not sure how long we can maintain our current position," he replied, frustration creeping into his voice. "Let's focus on what we can control," Marcus chimed in, his brow furrowed in thought. "If they're bringing a superweapon, they'll need to transport it. We should set a trap." "A trap?" I echoed, intrigued by the idea. "Yes," Marcus continued, his eyes lighting up with determination. "We can use our pulse weapons to create a false signal. When they move to engage, we'll hit them with everything we have. But we need to work fast." "Then let's get to it," I ordered, a sense of urgency propelling me forward. "We don't have much time. Split into teams and start working on the traps. We'll also need to fortify our defenses around the city." As we set to work, the room hummed with energy. We divided into groups, each tasked with a specific aspect of our plan. I joined Marcus and Gracthar, diving into discussions on how to best create the false signal and set our ambush. Hours turned into days, and we poured every ounce of effort into our preparations. The sound of tools clinking together and the hum of machines filled the air as we constructed our defenses. With each passing moment, the Thraxxian presence loomed larger, but so did our determination to resist. Then, one evening, Theo called us into the war room, his expression more serious than I had ever seen. "We've intercepted something," he announced, pulling up a holographic display of a Thraxxian ship schematics. They're moving their superweapon into position as we speak. If we act now, we might catch them off guard. Let's move, I said, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Gather everyone, we're going to hit them hard. We positioned ourselves strategically around the area where the Thraxxians were expected to arrive. The night was quiet, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. I could feel my heart pounding as we awaited their approach, every second stretching into eternity. And then, like a dark cloud descending upon us, the Thraxxian ships appeared, their massive forms cutting through the night sky. I felt a rush of energy as they moved into position, their cloaking fields flickering momentarily as they disengaged. Now, I shouted, and we unleashed our pulse weapons, sending waves of energy coursing through the air. The initial blast struck true, tearing through the Thraxxian ships, causing them to stagger. But then, the sky erupted in a cacophony of explosions and energy. The Thraxxians retaliated, their firepower overwhelming, and I found myself dodging energy blasts while returning fire. "Kael, behind you," Grakthar roared, his massive form crashing into a Thraxxian soldier that had managed to sneak through our defenses. The two tumbled to the ground, Grakthar's size overpowering the Thraxxian as he crushed him beneath his weight. We fought valiantly, our hearts racing as we pushed back against the Thraxxian forces. Each of us was locked in a battle that felt like a dance, a brutal, chaotic exchange of blows, strategy, and sheer willpower. Then, amidst the chaos, I caught sight of the superweapon. A massive structure, gleaming and menacing, was being deployed from one of the ships. I felt a chill run down my spine. "The superweapon," I shouted, pointing it out to my comrades. "We need to take it down." "Let's focus our fire on that," Marcus agreed, rallying our forces. As we shifted our attention, I noticed something peculiar. The Thraxxians were retreating from their formation, scrambling to protect their superweapon. Their leader, a tall, intimidating figure with a fierce gaze, was barking orders, but chaos had taken hold. "Now, strike while they're vulnerable," I commanded, and we surged forward, pouring every ounce of energy into our assault. With a thunderous crash, we struck the superweapon, its defenses crumbling under our firepower. The Thraxxians scrambled to contain the damage, but we pressed our advantage. The ground shook with the force of our attacks, and I could see the fear in the Thraxxians' eyes as they realized the tide was turning. "Push forward," Grakthar bellowed, leading the charge. We broke through their lines, fighting as one, driven by a shared purpose that fueled our determination. Just as we began to believe victory was within reach, the ground beneath us quaked, and a blinding light enveloped the area. The superweapon, in its last desperate attempt, activated, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. I shielded my eyes from the light, feeling the heat radiate around us. "Fall back," I yelled, but the sound was swallowed by the explosion that followed. As the dust settled, I looked around, dazed. The battlefield was transformed, a chaotic scene of destruction. I could see my comrades, struggling to regain their footing, but the Thraxxians were retreating, their forces scattered. "We did it!" Marcus shouted, a mix of disbelief and exhilaration in his voice. "We actually did it." But as I surveyed the damage, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. We had thwarted their plans for now, but the Thraxxians would regroup. I felt a burning determination inside me. "We have to prepare for what comes next," I said, my voice steady. "This is our chance to show them what humanity can do when united. We need to hit them again before they can recover." The glow of dawn filtered through the remnants of the battlefield, casting eerie shadows on the debris-strewn ground. I took a moment to breathe, the adrenaline from our recent victory still buzzing in my veins. We had faced down the Thraxxians, and against all odds, we had emerged victorious. But as I looked around, I realized that our fight was far from over. Marcus approached, wiping the grime from his face. His eyes were alight with a mixture of triumph and concern. "Kael, we need to regroup and strategize. The Thraxxians will be back, and they won't take this defeat lightly." I nodded, scanning the horizon where the remnants of the Thraxxian fleet still lingered, ominous and threatening. "You're right. We need to fortify our defenses and gather intelligence." Theo must have picked up something during the battle that can help us. As we moved toward the command center, the atmosphere crackled with energy. Warriors greeted us with weary smiles and weary limbs, but beneath that exhaustion, I could sense an undercurrent of resolve. They had faced death and emerged stronger, and that unity gave me hope. Inside the command center, Theo was already poring over the data we had gathered. His face was dimmed by the blue light of his console, and for a moment he seemed lost in the numbers. When he noticed us, he pushed his glasses up and gestured us closer. "I've got something," he said, his voice a mix of excitement and urgency. "What did you find?" I asked, leaning over his shoulder to get a better look at the holographic display. While we were engaging their forces, I managed to tap into their communication lines. It seems they were discussing a fallback plan, something about a hidden base where they've been constructing more advanced weaponry, Theo explained, his fingers dancing across the controls. "If we can pinpoint its location, we might be able to strike before they can launch a counterattack. Then we need to gather a team and get ready to move," I said, adrenaline surging once more. "Where's the base?" Theo pulled up a map of the surrounding regions. "It's about 50 kilometers from here, in the mountains. It's heavily fortified, but if we can get close enough to take them by surprise, we might have a chance." "Let's prepare for a reconnaissance mission," Marcus added. "We can't afford to miss this opportunity." As we assembled our team, I felt a sense of purpose washing over me. Each warrior around me carried a spark of determination, and together we would take the fight to the Thraxxians once more. I scanned the faces of my comrades Grakthar, Marcus, Theo, and a handful of other skilled fighters. We were ready. The journey to the mountains was filled with tense silence, each of us lost in our thoughts. The landscape changed as we moved further from the city, the lush greenery giving way to rocky outcroppings and steep inclines. I couldn't shake the feeling of impending danger, as if the very air around us vibrated with tension. As we reached the base of the mountain, we set up a temporary camp. Theo worked on his equipment, scanning for any signals from the Thraxxians. Grakthar kept watch, his massive form a reassuring presence against the fading light. Hours passed, and just as I began to think we were safe, Theo's voice broke through the stillness. "I've got something. They're transmitting orders from the base." "Can you decode it?" I asked, my heart racing. He nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. "Give me a moment there." He turned the device toward us, revealing a live feed of the Thraxxian base. We watched as soldiers moved in and out, the heavy machinery humming ominously. "Looks like they're working on something big," Marcus said, narrowing his eyes at the screen. "We need to get in there before they finish." "Agreed," I replied, my mind racing with possibilities. "We'll move under cover of night. We need to be silent and swift." As darkness fell, we set out, the cool night air brushing against our skin. The moonlight did our path, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the rocky terrain. Each step felt heavy with anticipation, the thrill of what lay ahead intertwining with the fear of what we might encounter. When we reached the base, I surveyed the landscape. The structure was massive, fortified with layers of thick metal plating and energy barriers. Guards patrolled the perimeter, their weapons glinting in the dim light. This was no ordinary facility. "Look there," Theo whispered, pointing to a gap in the guard rotations. "We can slip through that opening." With a silent nod, we moved into the shadows, hearts pounding in sync as we approached the entrance. My pulse quickened as we squeezed through the gap, the air thick with the scent of oil and machinery. Inside, the hum of machinery surrounded us, a mechanical symphony that echoed through the hallways. We navigated through dimly lit corridors, our senses heightened. Every sound felt magnified: the click of our boots on the floor, the distant chatter of Thraxxian soldiers. We moved cautiously, keeping our eyes peeled for any signs of detection. As we ventured deeper into the facility, we stumbled upon a large room filled with screens displaying live data. My heart raced as I realized this was their command center. We could gather invaluable intel here. "Let's split up," I suggested, my voice barely above a whisper. "Theo, you and I will take the main console. Marcus and Grakthar, you check the side rooms. If you find anything, signal us immediately." They nodded, and we moved quickly. Theo and I approached the main console, fingers poised to type. My heart pounded as I logged in, quickly bypassing their security systems with Theo guiding me through the processes. Come on, I muttered, sweat trickling down my brow. "There has to be something here." "Got it," Theo exclaimed, pointing at the screen. "Plans for their new weapon, something they call the Voidbringer." My stomach dropped. "What does it do?" "It harnesses energy from the fabric of space itself," he explained, eyes wide with disbelief. "If they succeed, it could wipe out entire cities in a single strike." "Then we have to destroy it," I said, adrenaline surging. "We can't let them activate it." Just as we began to download the data, alarms blared, flooding the room with red light. "They've found us," I shouted, heart racing. "Quick, we need to get out of here," Theo said, panic rising in his voice. We grabbed what data we could and bolted for the exit, our hearts pounding in unison. The sound of footsteps echoed behind us, growing louder with each passing second. "Kael, this way," Marcus shouted, waving us toward a side exit. We rushed through the corridors, narrowly avoiding the Thraxxians closing in on us. The adrenaline coursed through my veins as we darted through the winding hallways, the urgency of our escape urging us forward. Just as we reached a set of doors leading outside, Grakthar turned back, his imposing form blocking the path. "Go, I'll hold them off." "No, we can't leave you," I shouted, my heart clenching. "Go," he bellowed, determination etched on his face. "You must stop the Voidbringer." With a heavy heart, I nodded. "We'll come back for you, Grakthar," I promised, knowing deep down we might not have the chance. As we burst through the doors into the night, the chaos of the base erupted behind us. We sprinted down the mountainside, adrenaline pushing us forward. The sound of explosions and chaos echoed through the air, a stark reminder of the cost of our mission. When we reached the safety of our camp, we collapsed against the ground, panting heavily. I could see the flicker of firelight in the distance, the Thraxxian base engulfed in chaos as our escape unfolded. "We need to regroup and plan our next move," I said, feeling the weight of our losses. "We can't let Grakthar's sacrifice be in vain." The dawn broke over the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the landscape. But the beauty of the morning did little to ease the heaviness in my heart. Grakthar had sacrificed himself for our mission, and I could still hear his booming voice echoing in my mind, urging us to move forward. We had the data on the Voidbringer, and now it was time to devise a plan to dismantle it once and for all. As I stood at the edge of our camp, the air tinged with the scent of burnt metal and smoke, Marcus approached, concern etched on his face. "Kael, we can't dwell on Grakthar. We need to focus on what we can do next." I nodded, the sting of his words hitting home. "You're right. We honor his memory by completing this mission." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "Let's gather everyone and strategize." We assembled our team around a makeshift table, a large slab of rock that served as our command center. Theo laid out the data we had managed to retrieve from the Thraxxian base. The holographic projection flickered to life, displaying blueprints of the Voidbringer and schematics, detailing its power source. "According to this," Theo explained, pointing to the intricate lines on the display, "the Voidbringer is housed in a central chamber deep within the base. It requires a constant flow of energy to maintain its activation, which means it's vulnerable during its energy recharge cycles." "What's the recharge time?" I asked, leaning in closer. "Approximately 20 minutes, he replied, tapping the hologram. "If we can infiltrate the base during that window, we might be able to disable it." "Then we need to act quickly," Marcus said, determination burning in his eyes. "We can't let the Thraxxians regroup and power it up again." As we devised our plan, I felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through me. We would strike hard and fast, hitting them when they least expected it. Our warriors were eager, fueled by the memory of Grakthar and the promise of victory. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains, casting long shadows across the valley, we prepared for our final assault. Each warrior donned their gear, the familiar weight of weapons resting against their sides, a comforting reminder of our shared resolve. I could see the fire in their eyes, the same fire that had burned in Grakthar's heart. "Remember," I called to the group as we gathered one last time, "we are fighting not just for ourselves, but for everyone back on Earth. We are the shield against the darkness that seeks to consume us. Together, we are unstoppable." The echoes of our battle cries resonated through the air as we moved out, stealthily making our way back to the Thraxian base. The adrenaline buzzed within me, the weight of our mission pressing heavily on my shoulders. As we approached the base, the night was thick with tension. The perimeter was guarded, but we had learned from our previous encounter. Theo led us to a narrow side entrance, an access point hidden behind a cluster of rocks. "This way," he whispered, glancing around to ensure the coast was clear. We slipped through the entrance, the metallic door hissing as it opened. The interior was dark, lit only by the flickering lights from the machinery. We moved in silence, our footsteps echoing softly in the corridor. "Stay alert," I instructed, my heart racing as we navigated through the labyrinthine hallways. The feeling of being hunted crept over me, the shadows seeming to shift with every step. As we reached the heart of the base, the main chamber loomed ahead, a massive room filled with colossal machinery, pulsating with energy. In the center stood the Voidbringer, a terrifying construct of alien technology that seemed to hum with a life of its own. "There it is," Marcus breathed, his eyes wide with a mix of awe and dread. "We need to shut it down." Theo began typing furiously on a nearby console, pulling up the systems controlling the Voidbringer. "I can access its mainframe, but I'll need a few minutes to bypass the security protocols." "Make it fast," I urged, glancing around for any signs of incoming Thraxxians. The tension was palpable, every second stretching into eternity. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the chamber, and the doors burst open. Thraxian soldiers flooded in, weapons drawn and eyes blazing with fury. "Intruders," one of them shouted, raising his weapon. "Move," I yelled, grabbing Marcus and Theo as we dove for cover behind a series of machinery. The room erupted into chaos, energy blasts flying through the air and ricocheting off the metal walls. "Keep them at bay while I work," Theo shouted, his fingers flying over the controls as he focused on the Voidbringer's systems. We returned fire, the crack of weapons mingling with the roars of our enemies. I could see the determination in my comrades' faces, their resolve unyielding even in the face of overwhelming odds. I caught a glimpse of one of the Thraxians charging toward us, his weapon raised. With a surge of adrenaline, I stepped forward, meeting him head-on. My training kicked in as I sidestepped his attack and struck back, the clash of metal ringing in my ears. The Thraxian staggered, and I took the opportunity to push him back, the fight coursing through my veins. Behind me, I could hear Marcus shouting orders, rallying our team to hold their ground. I caught sight of him firing at another group of Thraxians, his aim true. "We need to hold them off," he yelled, determination etched on his face. "Almost there," Theo called, his voice strained as he worked to breach the security system. "Just a few more seconds." As the battle raged around us, I felt a surge of hope. We had faced insurmountable odds before, and we would do it again. With a final push, I fought through the waves of Thraxians, my focus unwavering. Suddenly, Theo shouted, "I'm in. I can shut it down." "Do it," I yelled, my heart pounding as I saw the control panel flickering with lights. Theo worked furiously, fingers dancing over the console as he initiated the shutdown sequence. The Voidbringer trembled, its pulsating energy flickering as alarms blared around us. "Cover me," I shouted, my voice rising above the chaos. We had to buy him time. With renewed determination, we fought back, our combined strength pushing against the Thraxians. Energy blasts lit up the room, and the air crackled with tension. I felt the familiar thrill of battle coursing through me, every instinct heightened as I moved through the fray. The Voidbringer began to emit a low hum, the energy fluctuations signaling its impending shutdown. "It's working," Theo exclaimed, his eyes wide with exhilaration. "Almost there," I shouted, adrenaline surging as I pushed back against the oncoming soldiers. I could see the desperation in their eyes, and for a moment, I felt the tide shifting. Then, with a final blast, the Voidbringer's energy surged and then fell silent. The room was engulfed in an otherworldly light, and for a brief moment, everything seemed to freeze. The Thraxxians halted, confusion etched on their faces as the energy dissipated. "Now," I yelled, rallying my comrades as we pressed our advantage. With the Voidbringer disabled, we fought back with renewed vigor, each blast echoing with the triumph of our mission. The tide of the battle turned, and the Thraxxians began to retreat, their bravado shattered by our unexpected resilience. We pressed forward, determined to chase them out of our home. As the last of the Thraxxians fled, I turned to my team, exhilaration flooding through me. We had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. But in the midst of our celebration, I felt the weight of loss pressing on my heart. Grakthar had given everything for this moment, and his sacrifice would not be forgotten. "Let's regroup and assess our next move," I said, a mix of gratitude and sorrow washing over me. "We'll honor Grakthar by ensuring this never happens again." In the aftermath of the battle, the base lay in ruins, a stark reminder of the violence that had unfolded. Yet amidst the wreckage, there was a sense of unity, a bond forged in the crucible of conflict. As we gathered to assess our situation, the weight of Grakthar's sacrifice hung heavy on our hearts, a constant reminder of the cost of our mission. Marcus was the first to break the silence, his voice firm. "We need to gather what intel we can. The Thraxxians won't take this defeat lying down. They'll regroup and retaliate." "Agreed," I replied, my mind racing with possibilities. "Theo, can you pull up any remaining data from the systems here? We need to know what they were planning." "On it," Theo responded, already moving to the nearest console. As his fingers danced across the controls, I took a moment to look around, absorbing the sight of my comrades. Each of them wore the marks of battle-scuffed armor, bruised bodies, but their spirits remained unbroken. As I turned back to the console, a holographic display flickered to life, the darkened chamber with a soft blue glow. "Here we go," Theo said, his eyes scanning the information. "This is their deployment schedule. They were planning another attack, a coordinated strike on Earth itself." "What?" Marcus exclaimed, disbelief etched on his face. "When?" "Within the next week," Theo replied, urgency creeping into his voice. "They've been amassing forces on a nearby planet, preparing for a full-scale invasion." "We can't let that happen," I said, my heart racing at the thought of an assault on our home. "We need to alert Earth Command immediately." Marcus nodded, determination in his eyes. "Let's gather the remaining data and head back. We can warn them before it's too late." As we began to collect intel, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The battle had shown us our strength, but this new threat demanded even more from us. We were the last line of defense for Earth, and I was determined not to fail. Just then, the alarms blared again, echoing through the base. "They're back," one of the warriors shouted, eyes wide with alarm. "Everyone, get to positions," I commanded, adrenaline surging through me. We had to prepare for another assault, and this time we were not only defending ourselves, but also protecting the vital information we had just gathered. We took our positions, weapons at the ready, as the doors burst open once more. Thraxxian soldiers flooded into the chamber, their eyes blazing with rage. They were here for revenge, and we were prepared to meet them head-on. "Hold the line," I shouted, firing at the nearest enemy. The battle erupted once again, chaos enveloping us as we fought back against the relentless onslaught. I felt the rush of adrenaline, the thrill of combat igniting every fiber of my being. We were fighting for our home, for every life that depended on us. I moved through the fray, ducking and weaving, firing at the advancing Thraxxians, their twisted forms charging with relentless fury. "Cover Theo," Marcus yelled, and I turned to see him firing at a group of enemies trying to flank us. With a surge of determination, I pushed forward, joining him as we fought back against the wave of attackers. The chamber shook with the sound of energy blasts, and I could feel the heat of battle surrounding us. It was a brutal dance, a clash of wills as we pressed against the oncoming tide. Each shot felt like a statement, a defiance against those who sought to destroy us. "Get to the console," I shouted to Theo, my voice rising above the chaos. "We can't let them destroy the data." Theo nodded, his focus unwavering as he maneuvered through the chaos, dodging blasts and pushing toward the control panel. I fought alongside him, my heart pounding as I felt the weight of responsibility on my shoulders. We couldn't let our sacrifices be in vain. Just as we reached the console, a massive Thraxian soldier barreled toward us, his weapon raised. "Look out!" I shouted, adrenaline coursing through me as I stepped forward, ready to face him head-on. The creature charged, its grotesque features twisted in rage. With a quick sidestep, I dodged its initial strike, then countered with a swift blow to its side. The impact sent it stumbling back, and I pressed the advantage, feeling the exhilaration of the fight surge through me. Behind me, Theo worked furiously at the controls, his fingers flying as he initiated a lockdown sequence. "Almost there," he yelled, determination etched on his face. I fought with everything I had, my muscles straining as I blocked and countered the Thraxians' attacks. It roared in frustration, swinging its massive weapon in a wide arc, but I ducked just in time, feeling the rush of air as it narrowly missed me. With a final push, I landed a blow that sent the Thraxian crashing to the ground, its body thudding against the metal floor. I turned back to Theo, who was now tapping into the emergency systems. "It's locking down the base," he exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. "We'll be safe for now." The remaining Thraxians hesitated, confusion flickering in their eyes as the alarms blared. "Fall back," one of their leaders shouted, and with that, the tide began to shift. The creatures retreated, their furious roars replaced by the sounds of retreat. "Keep your weapons ready," I warned, my heart racing as we watched them flee. "They may regroup for another attack." As the last of the Thraxians disappeared into the shadows, a tense silence fell over the chamber. We were battered, bruised, but victorious once again. The threat had receded, but I knew we were far from safe. "Let's gather everything we can and get out of here," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through me. "We need to get this data back to Earth Command before it's too late." The team moved quickly, gathering the remaining intel and ensuring we left no stone unturned. As we prepared to leave, I felt a sense of pride in my comrades. We had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, our resolve unbreakable. Once outside, we quickly boarded our ship, the weight of the battle heavy on our shoulders. As we launched into the stars, I looked back at the fading base, a symbol of our struggle and our triumph. "Onward to Earth," I said, determination lighting my heart. We were not just warriors, we were Earth's defenders, and together we would face whatever came next. The journey back to Earth was filled with a mix of adrenaline and dread. We flew in silence, the hum of the ship's engines the only sound breaking the heavy atmosphere. Each of us was lost in our thoughts, haunted by the battles we had fought and the looming threat we had uncovered. As the blue planet of Earth came into view, a sense of urgency gripped me. I knew that the information we carried could change everything. The Thraxians would not stop until they had what they wanted, and we were their primary target. "Prepare for landing," I commanded, my fingers gripping the controls tightly as we entered the atmosphere. I could see the sprawling landscape below, the familiar sights of home igniting a fire within me. We were back, but not without consequences. We were returning as warriors, tasked with rallying our people against an impending invasion. The landing was smooth, and as we disembarked, I took a deep breath, inhaling the familiar scent of Earth's air. It felt good to be home, but the urgency of our mission weighed heavily on my shoulders. We had to get the intel to command as quickly as possible. "We need to split up," I said, addressing the team as we gathered. "Theo and I will head to Central Command to deliver the data. Marcus, gather the others and prepare defenses. We don't have much time." "Understood," Marcus replied, his expression serious. "We'll need everyone on high alert." With a firm nod, I and Theo headed towards Central Command, our hearts pounding with anticipation. The city around us buzzed with activity, unaware of the danger lurking just beyond the stars. As we navigated through the streets, I could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. When we finally arrived at Central Command, the atmosphere was electric with urgency. Officers and strategists rushed about, their faces grim as they prepared for an unknown threat. I approached the nearest officer, introducing myself and Theo. "Lieutenant Commander," I said, my voice steady despite the urgency of the moment. "We have crucial intel regarding the Thraxian invasion. We need to brief the command." "Follow me," the officer replied, leading us through the bustling command center. I could see monitors displaying various data streams, maps of Earth's defenses, and reports from all over the globe. As we entered the briefing room, I could sense the tension in the air. High-ranking officers sat around a large table, their expressions stern and focused. "What do you have?" one of them demanded, leaning forward with intensity. Theo and I exchanged a glance, and I took a deep breath, ready to deliver the news. "We've just returned from a Thraxian base. They're planning a coordinated strike on Earth within the week. We have data on their deployment schedules and potential targets." I activated the holographic display, and the room fell silent as images and information flooded the air. Maps showing Thraxian troop movements, schematics of their ships, and detailed plans flashed before the officers. I could see their expressions shift from skepticism to alarm as the reality of the situation sank in. "This is serious," another officer said, studying the data intently. "If they launch a full-scale attack, we could face devastating losses." "We need to mobilize our defenses immediately," I urged, my heart racing. "They won't hesitate to strike at our weakest points." After several moments of intense discussion, the head officer, a grizzled veteran named Admiral Harrington, looked at us with steely resolve. "Very well. We will implement a full-scale alert. Theo, assist the intel team in analyzing this data further. We need every advantage we can get." Theo nodded, a glimmer of determination in his eyes. "I'll get right on it." As the meeting concluded, I felt a rush of adrenaline. We were finally taking action, and I could see the determination on my fellow warriors' faces. We were going to prepare for war, but there was still so much to do. "Commander," I said, turning to Admiral Harrington before leaving, "we also need to reach out to our allies. If the Thraxians are uniting their forces, we must do the same." "Agreed," he replied. "I'll coordinate with our diplomatic teams. You focus on getting our defenses ready." With that, I left the briefing room, my mind racing with possibilities. We were on the brink of a war that could change everything. I knew we had to rally our allies and prepare for the fight of our lives. As I made my way back to Marcus, I felt the weight of what was to come. This was no longer just about survival, it was about preserving our way of life. I had seen the horrors of the Thraxian war machine firsthand, and I was determined to protect my home. "Marcus," I called out as I approached the makeshift command center he had established. He was surrounded by a group of warriors, all strategizing and preparing for the imminent threat. "Any news?" he asked, his face lighting up with hope as he saw me. "They're mobilizing the defenses, but we need to reach out to our allies as soon as possible," I replied, urgency lacing my words. "Can you gather a team to contact the nearby systems? We need every ship, every weapon at our disposal." Marcus nodded, rallying the warriors around him. "Let's move. We're going to show them what Earth is made of." As the team split off to execute our plans, I felt a surge of pride. We were ready to face whatever the Thraxians had in store for us. We were warriors, and we would fight for our home. Just then, the alarms blared through the command center, shattering the momentary calm. "Invasion detected," the voice echoed over the loudspeaker. "Thraxian fleet approaching." The room erupted into chaos as officers scrambled to their stations, preparing for battle. I exchanged a glance with Marcus, and we both knew this was it. The Thraxians were here, and we had no choice but to fight. "Get ready, everyone," I shouted, adrenaline surging through my veins. "This is our moment. We will show them the strength of Earth." The control room hummed with activity as the alarm blared, and the gravity of the situation pressed down on us all. Soldiers, engineers, and strategists worked with frantic urgency, their faces dimmed by the glow of tactical screens showing the approaching Thraxian fleet. I felt the adrenaline coursing through my veins, my heart pounding in sync with the countdown timer on the main screen, ticking down to the moment of impact. "Deploy all aerial units," Admiral Harrington barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to intercept them before they reach the city. Everyone else, prepare for ground defense." I quickly positioned myself at a tactical console, scanning the data feeds pouring in from the orbital satellites. The Thraxian fleet was vast, a monstrous armada of warships and smaller assault craft, all painted in dark, ominous colors that seemed to absorb the light around them. They glided toward Earth like a swarm of locusts, intent on devouring everything in their path. "Marcus," I shouted, my eyes darting over the enemy formations. "We need to focus on their command ship. If we take that down, it might disrupt their coordination." Marcus, coordinating the ground forces, nodded sharply. "I'll relay the orders to our aerial units. They'll need to target that ship specifically." "What about ground forces?" "We'll create a defensive perimeter around the city. If they breach our lines, we can't let them reach the civilians," I replied, my mind racing with possibilities. As I relayed orders through the comms, I felt a familiar presence at my side. Theo had returned, his face pale but resolute. "I've briefed the intel team. They're ready to assist in analyzing the Thraxian tactics. We'll need to exploit any weaknesses we find." "Good," I replied, grateful for his support. "We'll need every advantage we can get. Focus on their ship configurations and weapon systems. If we can find a gap in their defenses, we might stand a chance." Moments later, the first reports of aerial engagement came through the speakers. "This is Phantom Squad, engaging Thraxian fighters. We have visual contact." The static was followed by a series of explosions, and I could feel my pulse quicken as I imagined the chaos unfolding above us. "Here they come," Marcus yelled, pointing toward the massive viewports overlooking the landing zone. I turned just in time to see the first wave of Thraxian ships burst through the clouds, dark silhouettes against the blue sky, and the ground shook with the force of their arrival. "Brace yourselves," I shouted, adrenaline surging through me. "Let's show them what Earth's warriors are made of." As the first of the Thraxian ships began their descent, our ground forces sprang into action, activating defense systems and preparing for the onslaught. Energy shields flared to life, casting a protective dome over the command center and the surrounding areas. I could see the soldiers taking their positions, their faces set with determination. "Phantom Squad reporting heavy resistance," came the voice over the comms, crackling with static. "We're engaging multiple targets, but they're swarming us." "Keep fighting, Phantom. We need to buy time," Marcus shouted, his voice steady despite the chaos. I felt a rush of pride seeing my fellow warriors ready to face the oncoming storm. Then, the first of the Thraxian assault ships landed, unleashing a wave of soldiers clad in dark armor. The air was thick with the smell of burning ozone, and the sharp crack of energy weapons filled the air. "Engage! Engage!" I shouted, my voice barely audible over the din of battle. The warriors of Earth fought with an intensity fueled by desperation and courage, a primal roar echoing through the battlefield. I raised my weapon and fired, the pulse blasts finding their marks among the advancing Thraxians. Each shot ignited the resolve within me. This was our home, and we would protect it. I spotted a group of Thraxians attempting to flank us from the left, their reptilian features twisted into expressions of malice. "Theo, to the left," I yelled, pointing as I shifted my aim. "Let's cut them off." Theo nodded, falling into step beside me as we advanced. We ducked behind a barricade for cover, exchanging fire with the advancing enemy. "They're more organized than we thought," Theo shouted over the roar of the battle. "They've trained for this," I replied, determination hardening my resolve. But so have we. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the area, sending debris flying as one of the Thraxian ships was taken down. I looked up to see Phantom Squad making a tactical retreat, their fighters swarming back toward our position. "They're regrouping," I shouted. "We need to create a buffer before they come back in full force." As we pushed forward, I could see more of our forces rallying behind us, bolstered by the sight of our aerial units raining fire down on the Thraxian troops. The tide began to shift, and I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. This is it. We can turn the tide. "Let's go," Marcus roared, rallying our troops. We surged forward together, a wave of humanity against the dark tide of the Thraxian invaders. With every step, I could feel the collective strength of Earth's warriors behind me, our hearts beating as one. As we clashed with the enemy, I felt the adrenaline coursing through me, driving me forward. The Thraxians fought viciously, their weapons crackling with energy as they fell back, but we pressed on. The sight of my comrades fighting alongside me ignited a fire within me. Then, amidst the chaos, I spotted something unusual, a glint of metal reflecting the sunlight from a nearby building. "Theo, look over there," I shouted, pointing to the glowing object. "We need to investigate." "What is it?" he asked, his eyes narrowing as he focused on the distant shine. "I don't know, but it could be a weapon or a way to turn this fight in our favor," I replied, already running toward the source of the glimmer. "Come on." We ducked and weaved through the firefight, dodging blasts as we approached the structure. The closer we got, the more I realized it wasn't just a weapon. It was an old satellite relay station, long abandoned but still intact. "If we can access this, we might be able to hack into their systems," I exclaimed, my excitement bubbling over. "Let's get inside," Theo shouted, charging forward. As we reached the entrance, we found the door barely hanging on its hinges. With a grunt, I pushed it open, and we dashed inside, closing it behind us. The interior was dark and dusty, cobwebs hanging in the corners. "It's been a while since anyone's been in here," I muttered, scanning the room. "But if we can power it up." "I'll check the control panel," Theo said, moving to the dusty console. He began tapping at the buttons, his brow furrowing in concentration. "If we can get the power back online, we can access their communications." I stood guard, listening to the sounds of battle outside. Explosions echoed in the distance, and I could hear the shouts of my fellow warriors as they fought to hold the line. "Hurry, Theo, we don't have much time." He worked quickly, fingers flying over the console. "Just a little longer," he urged, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Then, the lights flickered on, the control room in a cold glow. "Yes, I've got it," he exclaimed, a grin breaking across his face. "Let's see what the Thraxians are up to." I leaned over his shoulder, watching as data streamed across the screen. "Look at this," Theo said, his excitement palpable. "They're coordinating their strikes through this relay. If we can send a false signal, it could throw them into chaos." "Do it," I urged, my heart racing. "We'll give our forces the upper hand." Theo worked feverishly, inputting commands and modifying the system to create a false communication. I kept glancing outside, anxiety gnawing at me as I heard the sounds of the battle intensifying. Just as Theo finished, a loud crash echoed through the building, and I turned to see the door splintering under the weight of a Thraxian soldier attempting to breach it. "They're coming," I shouted. "We need to hold them off." "Got it," Theo replied, grabbing a nearby piece of debris and positioning it as a makeshift barricade. I joined him, pushing against the door as the Thraxian soldier began to force his way in. "On three," I shouted, bracing myself. 1, 2, 3. With a mighty heave, we pushed against the door, forcing it back against the invading soldier. He struggled, but the door held for the moment. "Keep working on that signal," I yelled, adrenaline fueling my every move. Theo nodded, sweat beading on his forehead as he worked to finalize the transmission. I could feel the door shaking, and I knew we wouldn't be able to hold it for long. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the building. and dust cascaded down from the ceiling. "We've got to get out of here," I yelled, fear gripping my chest. "No, I'm almost done," Theo insisted, his eyes fixed on the screen. "Just a few more seconds." "Forget about me. Get the message out," I shouted, determination filling me. "You have to warn them." Theo looked up, panic in his eyes. "I can't leave you." "Just do it. We can't let their sacrifice be in vain," I screamed, feeling the pressure mounting. The door began to splinter under the relentless assault. With one final glance, Theo turned back to the console, his fingers flying as he inputted the last of the commands. "Sending the signal, now." The lights flickered violently as the Thraxian soldier finally burst through the door, weapon raised. "Go!" I yelled, and in one swift motion, I pushed Theo toward the exit as I faced the oncoming threat. The last thing I heard as Theo scrambled out was the whirring of the comm system as the false signal began to transmit. I could only hope that it would reach our forces in time. With a deep breath, I turned to face the incoming soldier, knowing I would fight until my last breath. Earth would not fall without a fight. "Bring it on!" I shouted, raising my weapon as the Thraxian charged, a roar escaping its throat. The Thraxian soldier lunged at me, its reptilian features twisted into a feral snarl. Time seemed to stretch as I assessed the distance, the weapon in my hands feeling both like an extension of myself and a fragile lifeline. I couldn't let fear grip me. I had to be resolute, just like the warriors before me. "Come on, then," I shouted, and as it charged, I took a steadying breath, bracing myself for impact. The corridor was narrow, which worked to my advantage. I sidestepped at the last moment, pivoting as it barreled past, and I fired a shot at its back, the pulse blast hitting home. The creature staggered, hissing in fury, its thick armor absorbing most of the blast. But I wasn't finished. I pressed the trigger again, sending another pulse directly into its side. It fell to the ground, thrashing, and I took a moment to catch my breath, scanning the room for any further threats. But there was no time to linger. I could hear the sound of more Thraxians approaching, their heavy boots thudding against the floor, and I had to act quickly. I sprinted toward the exit, where I'd last seen Theo scrambling out. "Stay together," I yelled into the comms, hoping he could hear me over the din of battle outside. "We need to regroup." I pushed through the door just in time to see Theo darting around the corner, his face a mixture of fear and determination. "Over here," he shouted, motioning for me to follow him down a narrow alleyway adjacent to the control room. I dashed after him, the sounds of the ongoing battle growing louder with each step. We emerged into the open air, greeted by the chaos of our surroundings. Earth warriors were locked in combat with the Thraxian invaders, and I felt a surge of adrenaline. We had made a significant dent in their ranks, but the fight was far from over. "Did you get the signal out?" I asked breathlessly as we crouched behind a nearby vehicle, taking cover from a barrage of energy blasts raining down from above. "Yeah, but it's going to take time for our forces to act on it," Theo replied, his eyes scanning the battlefield. "We need to hold them off until they can regroup." I nodded, my resolve hardening. "Then let's give them everything we've got." With that, we stepped out from our hiding place, weapons raised. The sight of Earth's warriors fighting back was an awe-inspiring testament to our resilience. I could see Marcus rallying a group of soldiers, his voice booming through the chaos, instilling courage in those around him. "Keep pushing," Marcus shouted, firing a volley into the advancing Thraxians. "We need to protect our people. Don't give an inch." I took a moment to admire his leadership. Marcus had transformed from a reluctant soldier to a fierce leader, embodying the spirit of Earth's warriors. I hoped we would soon have the upper hand and could push back the Thraxians. Theo and I joined the fray, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Every blast fired, every enemy taken down, was a step closer to victory. The energy in the air was electric, a mixture of fear, bravery, and a fierce desire to protect our home. As we fought our way through the advancing horde, I caught sight of a group of Thraxian elites larger, more imposing creatures with advanced weaponry. They were coordinating their attacks with ruthless efficiency, and I knew we had to take them down if we wanted any chance of breaking the Thraxian advance. "Theo," I yelled, pointing at the elites, "we need to take them out." He nodded, determination etched on his face. "Let's do it." We moved as one, darting between the crumbling debris and burning vehicles, our weapons blazing. I could see the Thraxian elites commanding their troops, barking orders as they unleashed energy blasts at our soldiers. The chaos around us faded into the background as we focused on our targets. As we approached, I could feel the weight of the moment pressing on me. These creatures were ruthless and driven by a primal instinct to conquer. I recalled the stories I had heard about them, tales of their merciless campaigns across the galaxy, but they had never encountered humanity in full force. We took cover behind a destroyed transport ship, and I could feel my heart racing. "On three," I whispered, gauging the distance between us and the elites. 1, 2, 3. With a shared breath, we leaped from cover, firing in tandem. The first elite staggered back as my shot found its mark, but the others were quick to retaliate. Energy blasts crackled through the air, narrowly missing us as we ducked behind cover again. "Damn it," Theo shouted, frustration boiling over. "We need to outmaneuver them." "Then let's use the environment," I suggested, scanning the battlefield for an advantage. My eyes fell on an overturned fuel truck nearby. "If we can hit that, it might create a diversion." "Good idea," Theo replied, already shifting his position to get a better angle. I raised my weapon and aimed for the fuel truck, focusing intently. "Cover me," I shouted as I broke cover, sprinting toward it, energy blasts whizzing past me. I could feel the adrenaline flooding my senses, and for a brief moment everything slowed down. I reached the truck, took a deep breath, and fired at the weak point in its structure. The shot rang out, the energy blast piercing the metal and igniting the fuel inside. The resulting explosion rocked the battlefield, sending debris flying in all directions. I dropped to the ground, shielding my face as flames erupted around me. The shockwave knocked several Thraxians off their feet, providing us with the momentary distraction we needed. "Now," I yelled, and Theo and I surged forward, taking advantage of the chaos. The elites were disoriented, and we pressed our attack. We fought our way through the confusion, the air thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning metal. Each shot felt like a testament to our resolve, and with each fallen enemy, I could see our warriors gaining momentum. "Marcus," I shouted, spotting him rallying our troops near the front lines. "We need to push forward. We can take the fight to them." He nodded, determination shining in his eyes. "Let's give them hell." We charged forward together, a united front against the Thraxian horde. With each step, I felt the weight of my comrades' sacrifices fueling my resolve. They had fought valiantly, and I would not let their efforts be in vain. As we pressed deeper into the fray, I felt a surge of energy from the reinforcements that began to arrive. Earth's warriors, battle-hardened and fierce, ready to stand alongside us. The tide of battle was shifting, and the Thraxians could feel it too. "Push them back," Marcus roared, leading the charge. "Don't give them a chance to regroup." We fought with a ferocity that I had never experienced before. The Thraxians began to falter, their coordination breaking down as panic set in. I could see them hesitating, unsure of how to respond to the relentless assault from Earth's warriors. "Look," Theo shouted, pointing toward the Thraxian command ship hovering above. "Their command ship is vulnerable. If we can take it down, we can cripple their forces." "Then that's our target," I replied, adrenaline pumping through my veins. "Let's take the fight to them." With renewed vigor, we made our way through the battlefield, cutting down any Thraxian soldiers who stood in our way. The air crackled with energy, and I felt a sense of unity with my fellow warriors. Together, we were a force to be reckoned with. As we neared the command ship, I could see the heavy artillery mounted on its sides. "We need to disable those cannons first," I shouted, gesturing to the turrets that were firing indiscriminately into our ranks. Theo and I flanked the ship, utilizing the debris for cover as we approached. On my mark, I said, my heart racing. 3, 2, 1. We burst from cover, unleashing a hail of fire at the nearest turret. The energy blast struck true, and the turret exploded in a shower of sparks. The command ship shuddered, and I felt a surge of triumph. But the Thraxxians weren't done yet. An alarm blared from the command ship, and I could see reinforcements pouring from its hangars, more Thraxxian soldiers ready to defend their stronghold. Fall back, I yelled, realizing the overwhelming odds we faced. We need to regroup and plan our next move. We retreated to a safer position, gathering with the other soldiers as we assessed our next steps. The battle was fierce, but I could see the determination in everyone's eyes. We had already made a significant dent in the Thraxxian forces, but it wasn't over yet. Admiral Harrington, I called, spotting him near the front lines. We need to take down that command ship. It's the key to breaking their hold. He nodded, his expression serious. I'm aware, but we need a coordinated strike. We can't lose any more men needlessly. I glanced around at the gathered warriors, their faces grim but resolute. Then let's make it count. If we can get a team on board, we can sabotage their systems from the inside. Theo's eyes lit up at the idea. I'll lead the team. We can breach their defenses while you create a distraction. I hesitated for a moment, knowing the risks involved. Are you sure? It'll be dangerous. He nodded, determination etched on his features. I'm ready. We've come too far to back down now. I took a deep breath, pride swelling in my chest. All right, then let's do it. We'll create chaos while you get on board. With the plan set, we split our forces. I led a group toward the front lines, focusing on drawing the Thraxxian soldiers' attention away from the command ship. As we launched our distraction, energy blast whizzed past us, but I didn't falter. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, propelling me forward. Each enemy we engaged was a testament to our resilience, a demonstration that we would not back down. Theo and his team made their way toward the command ship, and I could only hope they would succeed. The weight of responsibility hung heavy on my shoulders, but I knew that together, we could achieve the impossible. The battle continued to rage, and I could see the tide shifting. Earth's warriors were fighting with everything they had, refusing to be subdued by the Thraxxians' relentless assault. Hold the line, I shouted, rallying our troops. For Earth. We pressed forward, our resolve stronger than ever. I could see the command ship beginning to falter, and I knew that if we could hold out just a little longer, victory would be within our grasp. But as we fought, I couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to happen, something that would change the course of our battle forever. The air crackled with energy, a palpable tension filling the battlefield as we continued to press our assault. Each pulse of fire that erupted from our weapons seemed to echo with the fierce determination of Earth's warriors. We had become a force, united by a shared purpose and a will to defend our home. As I fought, I felt the weight of each fallen comrade propelling me forward. They had made the ultimate sacrifice, and I refused to let their bravery be in vain. My eyes were set on the Thraxxian command ship, now a looming behemoth against the backdrop of the war-torn city. I could see it beginning to sway as it took damage, and a thrill of hope surged through me. Don't let up, I shouted, urging our troops onward. We're close, keep the pressure on. We charged through the lines, ducking under enemy fire and returning shots with a fierce intensity. The Thraxxians were beginning to falter, their command structure in disarray. I could see their elites struggling to maintain order among the ranks, and that was our opening. Push forward, Marcus roared, his voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon. We can break them. The sound of battle roared around us, but I felt an unyielding sense of clarity. This was the moment we had fought for, the moment that could turn the tide. I glanced at Theo, who had been leading a team toward the command ship, and I hoped they were making progress. Admiral Harrington, I called, trying to catch his attention over the din. We need to hit the command ship with everything we've got. He nodded, determination etched across his face. Agreed, let's make it count. We gathered our forces, preparing for a final push. I could see the Thraxxians beginning to retreat, their morale shaken by the losses they had suffered. But we couldn't let them escape. We had to finish this once and for all. "Prepare for bombardment," I shouted to our artillery teams. "We're going to take down that ship." The soldiers sprang into action, positioning their heavy artillery pieces for a concentrated assault. I took a moment to catch my breath, allowing the adrenaline to settle. It was a calculated risk. If we could disable the command ship, the Thraxxians would be thrown into chaos, giving us the upper hand we desperately needed. "Ready," one of the gunners called out, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding us. "Fire," I commanded, and the ground shook as the artillery roared to life. A barrage of energy blasts surged through the air, striking the command ship with devastating force. The first few shots hit home, and I could see sparks flying from the ship's hull. The Thraxxians scrambled, their coordinated defenses crumbling under the relentless onslaught. "Keep firing," I urged, watching as more shots connected, the ship beginning to tremble under the impact. I could feel the tides of battle shifting, a wave of exhilaration washing over me as I witnessed the chaos unfold. But even in our moment of triumph, I felt a nagging worry. Theo and his team were still inside that ship, and I couldn't shake the fear that they might be in grave danger. My gaze flickered toward the command ship, where a horde of Thraxxian soldiers began to regroup around it. "Theo," I shouted into the comms, desperation creeping into my voice. "Are you there? Report in." "Still in the thick of it," he replied, breathless but determined. "We're almost to the control center. Just keep the pressure on out there." I nodded, a surge of relief flooding through me. They were still alive. "We're giving it everything we've got, just a little longer." The artillery continued to hammer the command ship, and I could see it beginning to list to one side. The Thraxxians were in disarray, their once imposing formation crumbling. But I knew this was a pivotal moment. If we could disrupt their command structure, we could turn the tide entirely. "Rally the troops," I called out to Marcus, who was nearby. "We need to launch a full assault on the command ship. Let's finish this." He nodded, a fierce glint in his eye. "For Earth," he shouted, igniting a fire in the hearts of our comrades. With renewed vigor, we surged forward, pushing through the remaining Thraxxian lines. The chaos of battle swirled around us, but I felt a singular focus driving me. We were fighting not just for survival, but for a future free of the Thraxxian threat. As we reached the base of the command ship, I could see the wounded Thraxxian soldiers retreating, their morale shattered. "Let's get inside," I shouted, leading the charge up the ramp into the ship's belly. The interior was a labyrinth of corridors and dimly lit chambers, the air heavy with tension. Alarms blared as we navigated through the narrow passageways, the eerie glow of alien technology our path. "Where's the control room?" I asked, my heart pounding as we moved deeper into the ship. "Straight ahead, but it's heavily fortified," Theo's voice crackled over the comms. "We'll need to disable the defenses first." "Then let's do it," I urged, adrenaline surging through me. We approached a reinforced door, energy shields flickering ominously. Marcus and I took cover as our team prepared to breach. "On my mark," I said, my pulse racing. 3, 2, 1. With a thunderous explosion, we blasted the door open, rushing into the control room. Inside, a group of Thraxxian officers stood frozen in shock, their eyes wide with fear. "Don't move," I shouted, raising my weapon. "You're surrounded." They hesitated, their faces shifting from surprise to defiance. "You think you can defeat us? We are the might of the Thraxxian Empire," one of them barked, brandishing a weapon. But we had come too far to back down now. "Not anymore," I replied, stepping forward with unwavering resolve. "Your empire is crumbling, and we will see to it that you never threaten Earth again." Before they could react, we opened fire, taking down the officers before they had a chance to retaliate. The control room erupted into chaos, alarms blaring as the ship's systems began to fail. "Theo, get to the main console," I yelled, urgency in my voice. "We need to initiate a shutdown." He dashed forward, fingers flying over the controls as he worked to disable the ship's systems. "I'm on it. Just hold them off." As I covered him, I felt the weight of the battle pressing on me. The Thraxxians were relentless, but I could see their resolve beginning to wane. They had underestimated humanity's spirit, and it was a mistake they would pay dearly for. Just as Theo completed the shutdown sequence, a tremor shook the ship, sending us reeling. "What's happening?" I shouted, trying to steady myself against the control panel. "The ship's systems are destabilizing," Theo replied, urgency lacing his voice. "We need to get out of here." I glanced around, seeing the fear in my comrade's eyes. "Everyone, fall back. We're getting off this ship." We raced back through the corridors, the sound of explosions echoing behind us. The command ship was crumbling under the weight of our assault, and I felt a surge of exhilaration. We had achieved the impossible. As we reached the exit, I caught sight of the battlefield beyond. The Thraxxians were retreating, their forces in disarray. We had turned the tide, and victory was within our grasp. "Go, go, go," I shouted, urging everyone forward as the ship shook violently. We burst out into the open air just as the command ship erupted into a fireball, flames licking at the sky as debris rained down around us. I shielded my eyes against the brightness, adrenaline coursing through my veins. We had done it. As the dust settled, I looked around at my fellow warriors, the realization washing over us. We had fought fiercely, and against all odds, we had emerged victorious. Earth's spirit had prevailed, and I could feel the weight of hope returning to our hearts. "Let's regroup," I called, the thrill of victory swelling in my chest. "We need to assess the situation and plan our next move." As I surveyed the battlefield, I saw the remaining Thraxxians retreating in chaos. Our forces began to rally, and the sound of cheers erupted around us. We had stood together against the odds and triumphed. It was a victory not just for us, but for all of humanity, a testament to our resilience and spirit. The battle was over, but our journey was just beginning. We had forged a new chapter in our history, one where humanity stood as a beacon of strength against the darkness of the universe. As I looked around at my comrades, I felt a sense of pride swell within me. We had become Earth's fiercest warriors, and I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, for Earth, for humanity. And with that thought, I felt ready to face whatever the galaxy would throw our way. In the aftermath of our victory over the Thraxxians, Earth stood on the brink of transformation. The battle had ignited a flame of unity among the disparate nations and factions on our planet. No longer would we be merely a collection of nations. We were becoming a collective force. However, I could sense an unease, a whisper of impending conflict that hovered just beyond our reach. The galaxy, after all, is vast and filled with challenges we had yet to face. Weeks had passed since we defeated the Thraxxian command ship. The world was abuzz with the aftermath of our triumph. News of our resilience spread like wildfire, inspiring hope in the hearts of humanity. But as I watched our cities rebuild and our forces strengthen, I couldn't shake the feeling that something darker lurked in the shadows. I stood on the balcony of the newly established Global Defense Command, a massive structure that now served as the nerve center for Earth's military forces. It overlooked the bustling streets of New York, a city reborn from the ashes of war. Ships of various designs, some Earth-made and others salvaged from the Thraxxian remnants, floated in the sky, a testament to our newfound strength. "Captain Hayes," a voice called out, pulling me from my thoughts. It was Theo, his expression serious as he approached. "We've received intelligence from our deep space probes. There's been unusual activity near the Thraxxian homeworld." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What kind of activity?" "Fleet movements. It appears they're gathering forces, possibly planning a counteroffensive." My stomach dropped. "They're regrouping, after everything we've done." "It seems so. They may be preparing to retaliate," he replied, his tone grave. "We need to act quickly." I nodded, processing the information. "We can't let them gain any more ground. We need to establish a forward base near their homeworld and gather intelligence on their movements. Theo's eyes narrowed. I'll coordinate with Admiral Harrington. We can launch a reconnaissance mission and gather more intel before making any rash moves. As he turned to leave, I caught his arm. Theo, this isn't just about gathering intel. If they're planning a counteroffensive, we need to show them we're ready to fight again. We can't let fear dictate our actions. His expression softened. I know. We'll show them what Earth's warriors are made of. With that, he hurried off, and I returned my gaze to the city below. The hope and determination of our people surged through me. We had shown our strength once, but now we would need to prepare for a battle that could determine the fate of humanity. Days turned into a whirlwind of activity. Our forces mobilized, training intensively for what was to come. The stakes had never been higher, and the pressure weighed heavily on my shoulders. I spent countless hours poring over tactical reports and strategies with Admiral Harrington, Theo, and our brightest minds, every decision more crucial than the last. One evening, while reviewing the latest intelligence reports, I was interrupted by Marcus, who strode into the command room with a fire in his eyes. "Captain, we need to talk," he said, urgency in his voice. I gestured for him to sit. "What's on your mind?" "We can't just wait for the Thraxxians to come to us. We need to take the fight to them. We should launch a preemptive strike while they're still vulnerable." I leaned back in my chair, weighing his suggestion. "It's risky, Marcus. We don't fully understand their current capabilities. A preemptive strike could provoke a full-scale war before we're ready. But what if we strike before they have the chance to regroup? If we can take out their key command centers, we can cripple their operations," he pressed. I rubbed my chin, deep in thought. He had a point. "We'll need to gather more intelligence first. If we can pinpoint their command infrastructure, we might have a shot." "I'll get our best recon teams on it," he said, determination radiating from him. As he left, I felt a surge of hope mingled with apprehension. We had emerged victorious once, but this time we would need to be more than just lucky. We had to be strategic. Days later, our recon teams returned with critical intelligence. The Thraxxian command structure was more extensive than we had anticipated, with fortified positions spread across their homeworld. However, they were still reeling from our previous attack, and I could see the glimmer of opportunity. "Here's the plan," I began, addressing our gathered commanders. "We'll launch a targeted strike on their primary command center, but we'll do it in phases. Theo, I want you leading the strike team. Marcus, you'll coordinate the air support." Theo nodded, determination set on his face. "We'll hit them hard and fast." As the details of our operation unfolded, I felt the weight of leadership pressing down on me. It wasn't just about victory. It was about ensuring the safety and survival of Earth. The night before our planned strike, I found myself unable to sleep, wandering the command center's halls. I felt a strange mix of excitement and dread. The path ahead was fraught with peril, and the memories of our last battle lingered in my mind, every life lost, every moment of despair. The next morning, we mobilized our forces. The atmosphere crackled with tension as we boarded our ships, each pilot and soldier focused on the mission ahead. The roar of engines filled the air, a sound that had become both familiar and terrifying. "Remember, this is for Earth," I reminded my team as we gathered for a final briefing before launching. "We've trained for this moment, and we will succeed." The fleet surged forward, navigating through the darkness of space. I took a moment to breathe in the smell of the ship, feeling the reassuring hum of the engines beneath me. This was my home now, my family, and I wouldn't let them down. As we neared the Thraxxian homeworld, a sense of anticipation built within me. "Tactical report," I commanded, my eyes glued to the screens displaying the Thraxxian defenses. "Stealth systems engaged, Captain." "We're undetected so far," the officer replied. "Good. Theo, Marcus, prepare your teams for the initial insertion." "Ready when you are," Theo replied, his eyes shining with resolve. "On my mark," I said, my heart pounding. 3, 2, 1, go." Our ships descended upon the Thraxian command center, and as we broke through their defenses, the alarms blared to life, chaos erupting all around us. "Now," I shouted, and our strike teams launched, engaging the Thraxian forces in fierce combat. The din of battle filled the air, punctuated by the sound of blaster fire and explosions. Theo's team moved swiftly, utilizing their training to navigate through the chaos. I watched as they breached the command center, taking out enemy personnel with precision. The thrill of the fight surged through me, a reminder of why we had fought so hard. "Covering fire," Marcus yelled, providing support as we pushed deeper into the command structure. The Thraxians were scrambling to regroup, but we were relentless. "Get to the main console," I shouted, leading our team deeper into the facility. The layout was familiar from our intel, and I felt a surge of adrenaline propelling me forward. As we reached the command room, I saw a group of Thraxian officers desperately trying to activate their defenses. "Stop them," I ordered, and we charged forward. The battle was fierce, but our training and determination propelled us ahead. With a final push, we overwhelmed the Thraxians, and I could see the main console glowing ominously in front of me. "Theo, shut it down," I yelled, urgency lacing my voice. Theo dashed to the console, fingers flying over the controls. "I'm on it. Cover me." The remaining Thraxian soldiers rallied for a final stand, but we fought with everything we had, refusing to back down. "Hold the line," I shouted, knowing this was our moment to end the threat once and for all. As Theo completed the shutdown sequence, the entire command center shook violently. Alarms blared as systems began to fail, and I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me. "Time to go," I yelled, leading our team back through the corridors as the facility began to collapse around us. We burst out into the open air just as the command center erupted into chaos, a fireball of the sky. I shielded my eyes against the brightness, the thrill of victory coursing through me once more. The tide had turned, and we had struck a blow against the Thraxian Empire that they would never forget. As we regrouped outside, I could see the remnants of their forces retreating. We had fought valiantly, and against all odds, we had emerged victorious once again. Theo stood beside me, breathless but triumphant. "We did it, Captain. We've shown them that Earth will not back down." I looked around at my comrades, the fierce warriors who had fought beside me. "This is just the beginning. We've proven ourselves, but we need to remain vigilant. The galaxy is vast, and we will face more challenges ahead." The cheers of our team echoed in my ears, a cacophony of triumph and relief. I could see the determination etched on their faces, the shared understanding that we had become more than mere soldiers, we were guardians of our world. As we boarded our ships to return home, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come. Just months ago, we were caught off guard, scrambling to defend our planet from an unseen enemy. Now, we had proven our mettle on the battlefield, but I knew deep down that this was just the first of many battles to come. Once back at the Global Defense Command, the atmosphere was electric with celebration. Screens throughout the facility displayed live feeds of the battle, showing footage of our victory, and I felt a swell of pride. The news anchors were frantically recounting our exploits, heralding us as heroes. I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that our victory would not go unanswered. "Captain Hayes," a voice broke through the jubilation, and I turned to see Admiral Harrington approaching, his expression serious amidst the festivity. "I need to speak with you privately." I nodded and led him to my office, the noise of celebration fading behind us. "What's on your mind, Admiral?" He took a deep breath, looking more weighed down than usual. Our intel was incomplete. The Thraxians were indeed preparing for a counteroffensive, but they have allies other races in the galaxy who are now aware of our capabilities. "Who are they?" I felt a chill run through me. "Several species, most notably the Zarkari, known for their ruthless combat tactics and advanced technology. They've had dealings with the Thraxians for centuries, and their involvement could tip the scales." "Why didn't we receive this intel sooner?" I demanded, frustration boiling to the surface. "Signal disruption, Captain." The Thraxxians must have scrambled communications as we were striking. We're still piecing everything together. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples. So, we're not just facing the Thraxxians anymore. We've attracted the attention of other enemies. Correct. We need to prepare for a coalition of hostile forces, Harrington said, his eyes grave. I want every resource allocated to intelligence. We can't let them catch us off guard again, I replied firmly. And let's ensure our forces are ready. We need to show the galaxy that humanity stands united. Agreed. We'll be ready, he said, his demeanor shifting to one of renewed determination. After he left, I took a moment to gather my thoughts. The thrill of victory had dulled slightly, replaced by the weight of impending conflict. I couldn't allow doubt to creep in. We had fought against insurmountable odds before, and we would do it again. I reached for my comm unit and contacted Theo and Marcus, instructing them to assemble our team for a briefing. Within the hour, our leadership gathered around the conference table, their faces a mix of exhaustion and resolve. Thank you for coming on such short notice, I began, looking each of them in the eye. We've received critical intelligence regarding the Thraxxians and their allies. The Zarkari are now involved, and they pose a significant threat to our efforts. Can we count on our technology to outmatch them? Theo asked, his brow furrowed in thought. The Zarkari are known for their advanced weaponry and guerrilla tactics. We can't underestimate them. We need to develop a strategy that anticipates their movements and counters their advantages, I explained. Marcus leaned forward, his fingers steepled in thought. What if we use decoy signals to draw their forces away from our key positions? We could create an opportunity to strike at their command centers again. That's a good start, I agreed, encouraged by his creativity. We'll use every advantage we have to maintain the upper hand. We'll also need to reinforce our alliances with other species who may stand against the Zarkari and Thraxxians. We can't fight this battle alone. As the discussion unfolded, I could see the resolve solidifying in my team. We were not just fighting for Earth. We were fighting for the very concept of unity across the galaxy. Each of us had stories, struggles, and victories that contributed to our collective strength. In the days that followed, we worked tirelessly. Recon teams were dispatched to gather more intel on Zarkari movements, while our engineers collaborated to enhance our defenses. The intensity of the atmosphere was palpable, a mix of anticipation and dread, but we pushed forward with relentless determination. As we strategized, I found myself reflecting on our journey. We had faced our fears, fought against the odds, and emerged victorious, but the knowledge that our enemies were regrouping loomed heavily. With every passing day, we grew stronger, more united. The very essence of what it meant to be human, our resilience, creativity, and indomitable spirit became our greatest weapon. One evening, as I prepared for a briefing with our command staff, I received a message from an unexpected source. It was a transmission from an alien race known as the Curvons, renowned for their intellect and diplomatic acumen. They offered to mediate a meeting between us and the Zarkari, proposing a chance for peace. I shared the message with my team. This could be our opportunity to avert a full-scale war. We need to approach this carefully, I said, gauging their reactions. Theo raised an eyebrow. Are we really considering negotiating with the Zarkari? They're not known for their diplomatic ways. We have to explore every option. If there's a chance for peace, we owe it to our people to pursue it, I insisted. Marcus crossed his arms, contemplative. But what if it's a trap? We need to be ready for anything. Agreed. We'll send a small delegation to the meeting, and we'll prepare for any contingencies. Our focus remains on the safety of Earth and its people, I stated, the weight of leadership pressing down on me once again. In the days leading up to the meeting, we trained our team in negotiation tactics and ensured our defenses were ready. I felt a sense of unity among us, a shared understanding that this was about more than just survival, it was about forging a new path for humanity. The day of the meeting arrived, and we assembled at a neutral location, a vast floating platform orbiting a distant planet. The Curvans had arranged everything, and as we stood in the chamber, I couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation that gripped me. Suddenly, the doors slid open, and a group of Zarkari entered. Their tall, lean forms were adorned with sleek armor, their eyes glinting with intelligence and cunning. I steadied myself, focusing on maintaining a calm demeanor despite the tension in the air. "Welcome, Earth representatives," one of the Zarkari said, its voice smooth yet commanding. "I am Daxon, envoy of the Zarkari High Council. We have come to discuss the terms of our potential alliance." "Or perhaps the terms of your surrender," I replied, my voice steady, testing the waters. Daxon regarded me coolly. "It is not our intention to wage war against you. The Thraxxians' defeat has reshaped the balance of power in the galaxy, and we seek to ensure that our interests are protected." "Interesting choice of words," I said, my heart racing. "And what guarantees can you provide that your intentions are sincere?" Daxon smiled slightly. "If we wanted war, we would have initiated it by now. We are here to explore the potential for cooperation. The Thraxxians are a threat to all of us, and together we stand a better chance of overcoming them." The room fell silent as I considered their proposal. Could this be a genuine opportunity for peace, or a ploy to gain an advantage? "Why should we trust you?" Theo asked, his arms crossed defiantly. "Because we share a common enemy," Daxon replied. "An enemy who has proven to be far more formidable than we anticipated. Together, we could form an alliance that could reshape the future of the galaxy." I glanced at my team, gauging their reactions. There was a flicker of hope mingled with skepticism. If we were to consider this alliance, what would it entail? Daxon leaned forward, outlining a vision of collaboration that involved shared resources, joint military exercises, and intelligence sharing. It was a promising concept, but the deeper implications lingered in the air. As the discussion progressed, I felt a sense of cautious optimism. Perhaps this could lead to a new chapter for humanity, a chapter built on collaboration rather than conflict. However, as I prepared to speak, a sudden alarm blared through the chamber, cutting our meeting short. The Curvan's monitors displayed a live feed of an approaching fleet, an unmistakable coalition of Thraxian and Zarkari ships. "Get to your ships," I shouted, adrenaline surging through me. "We're under attack." Panic erupted in the chamber as everyone scrambled to escape. In the chaos, I grabbed Theo and Marcus. Our mission abruptly transformed into a fight for survival. "We'll regroup and prepare for their assault," I instructed, urgency in my voice. As we dashed towards our vessels, I could see the flicker of the enemy fleet approaching, an ominous reminder that our moment of potential alliance had been shattered. We weren't just fighting for Earth anymore. We were fighting for our very lives against a coalition that had come together to eradicate us. Once aboard our ship, I took the helm, my mind racing with strategies. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers and signal the defense fleet for immediate assistance," I ordered, my fingers flying over the controls. We launched into the depths of space, engaging in a high-speed chase as the enemy ships pursued us. I could feel the weight of my team behind me, their resolve unwavering as we faced this new threat. "Captain, they're gaining on us," Marcus shouted, eyes wide with urgency. "Divert power to shields and weapons," I commanded. "We're going to make our stand right here." As we engaged the enemy, the chaotic sounds of battle filled the cockpit. Explosions rocked our ship as we exchanged fire, but I felt a surge of determination within me. We had fought back before. We would do it again. "Captain, we've got incoming from the left," Theo yelled, his focus sharp. "Evasive maneuvers," I shouted, feeling the adrenaline pumping through my veins as we narrowly avoided a barrage of plasma blasts. We fought valiantly, our ship weaving in and out of enemy fire. The Zarkari ships were relentless, their coordination striking fear into our hearts. But amidst the chaos, I could see the glimmer of our defense fleet approaching. Reinforcements were on the way. "Hold on, everyone, we're not done yet," I bellowed, rallying my team as we continued to fight back against the enemy forces. Just as the enemy closed in, the defense fleet joined the fray, a wave of support that surged around us. Our forces rallied together, and I could feel a renewed sense of hope washing over us. "Focus fire on the lead Zarkari ship," I commanded, and we unleashed everything we had, sending shockwaves through the enemy ranks. The battle raged on, a chaotic dance of survival as we fought for every inch of space. I could see our comrades fighting alongside us, their determination palpable as we pushed back against the onslaught. As the dust settled, we managed to drive the enemy forces into retreat, but not without taking heavy losses. The silence that followed was deafening, the realization of what we had just endured hanging heavily in the air. We had survived, but the cost had been steep. I turned to my team, their faces a mix of exhaustion and triumph. "We did it," I said, a sense of pride swelling within me. "We fought together and came out stronger." "Now what?" Theo asked, the weight of uncertainty in his voice. I took a deep breath, knowing the fight was far from over. "We regroup and strategize. We need to find out how they knew about our meeting, and we will ensure our next steps are calculated." As we prepared to return to Earth, I couldn't shake the feeling that our battle for survival was just beginning. The galaxy was changing, and we would need to adapt to the new reality that awaited us. But as long as we stood together, united in purpose, I knew we could face whatever came our way. In the coming weeks, we worked tirelessly to understand the circumstances surrounding the attack. Intelligence reports flooded in, revealing the extent of the coalition against us. The Zarkari and Thraxxians were not merely allies. They were part of a larger network of species that saw humanity as a rising threat. The urgency of our situation became increasingly apparent. We couldn't just wait for the next strike. We needed to be proactive. I called for an emergency summit, inviting leaders from our allied species to gather and discuss our collective response. The atmosphere in the conference room was tense as representatives from different worlds took their seats. It was a rare opportunity to unite against our common enemy, and I felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," I began, scanning the faces around the table. "We stand at a pivotal moment. Our survival depends on our ability to work together against the coalition that seeks to destroy us." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. "We have seen the power of their alliance," Daxon, the Zarkari envoy, spoke up. "We must forge a new coalition, one that stands resolute against the forces that threaten us all." I nodded, grateful for their willingness to collaborate. "Let's outline a strategy. We need to share intelligence, resources, and coordinate our military efforts. The Thraxxians and Zarkari will not back down easily." As the discussions progressed, ideas flowed freely, each representative contributing their insights and expertise. We explored strategies for deception, feints, and the importance of psychological warfare tools we could use to disrupt the enemy's plans. The mood began to shift from apprehension to determination. With each passing hour, our vision for a united front solidified, and I could sense a camaraderie forming among us. Just as we began to draft our battle plans, an urgent message came through. A distress signal from one of our outer colonies had been intercepted. Thraxxian ships were attacking. Without hesitation, I called for immediate action. "We need to deploy our forces to assist the colony. Every moment counts. We can't allow them to establish a foothold." As we mobilized, I felt the resolve of our coalition solidifying into something formidable. Our race was known for its resilience, and in this moment, we would show the galaxy what we were made of. Our ships flew through the void, racing towards the colony. I could feel the tension mounting as we prepared for battle, but I also felt a flicker of hope. We were not alone in this fight. Together, we would push back against the encroaching darkness. As we entered the colony's orbit, the scene before us was chaotic. Thraxxian ships swarmed around, raining destruction upon the settlements below. We quickly initiated our attack, deploying drones and fighters to engage the enemy. "Captain, we have multiple enemy targets approaching," Theo shouted, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Stay focused. We'll break their formation," I replied, adrenaline surging through me as I maneuvered our ship into the thick of battle. The sounds of explosions filled the air, the fierce glow of energy weapons lighting up the darkness. I could see the determination etched on the faces of our allies as we fought side by side. "Direct hit on their lead ship," Marcus exclaimed, the thrill of victory coursing through him. "Keep pushing forward," I shouted, guiding us deeper into the fray. As the battle raged, I felt a sense of unity among our forces. Each ship fought valiantly, fueled by the shared understanding that our survival depended on this moment. Together, we were a force to be reckoned with. Finally, as the last Thraxian ship fell, a cheer erupted among our ranks. The colony was safe, but the fight was far from over. We regrouped, our coalition standing stronger than ever. I felt a renewed sense of purpose within me as I addressed our forces. Today, we showed the galaxy that we will not be cowed by fear. We are united in our fight for survival, and together, we will rise to meet whatever challenges lie ahead. With that declaration, I knew our next step would be crucial. The coalition of Zarkari and Thraxxians would regroup, and we had to be ready to confront them head-on. In the weeks that followed, our alliance deepened, and we worked tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. Intelligence shared among our forces revealed the locations of enemy strongholds, their tactics, and the depth of their resources. Each day, our resolve grew stronger. We had experienced loss, but we had also tasted victory. The galaxy was shifting, and humanity was no longer a lone voice in the void. We were part of something larger, an alliance that transcended species, bound by the shared desire for freedom and survival. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. Our combined fleet assembled in the depths of space, a testament to our unity and strength. As we prepared for battle, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. We had come together against insurmountable odds, and we would face this challenge as one. The briefing room buzzed with anticipation as I addressed our commanders. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for every world that believes in freedom. We will show the Zarkari and Thraxxians that our resolve is unbreakable. The moment we launched into the fray, the echoes of the past surged through me, the battles we had fought, the lives we had lost, and the unity we had forged. As we engaged the enemy, I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose, driving us forward as a force of nature. Our ships wove through the void, each maneuver a testament to our training and teamwork. The enemy fleet loomed ahead, a dark mass of power and determination. "Focus fire on their command ship," I shouted, my heart racing as we targeted the heart of their forces. As our weapons lit up the void, I could see the Zarkari's resolve faltering. Together, we pushed forward, relentless in our pursuit of victory. In that moment, I realized that we were more than just soldiers. We were a symbol of resilience, a force that would not be silenced. The battle raged on, each explosion a reminder of our struggle. But as we fought, a glimmer of hope the darkness. Together, we were powerful, a testament to the strength of unity. With every enemy ship we took down, we moved closer to victory. The tide was turning, and I could see the resolve of the enemy begin to waver. "Keep pushing forward. We're almost there," I shouted, adrenaline surging through me as we engaged in a final push against the Zarkari flagship. As we closed in, I felt a surge of determination wash over me. This was our moment. With a final coordinated strike, we unleashed everything we had, overwhelming their defenses in a spectacular explosion that echoed across the stars. As the remnants of the enemy fleet scattered into the void, a wave of triumph surged through us. We had faced the darkness together and emerged victorious. In the aftermath of the battle, the unity we had forged became our greatest strength. We began to lay the foundation for a new era, one where species would stand together against tyranny and oppression. As I stood among my fellow commanders, I realized that we had not just won a battle, we had changed the course of history. Looking toward the stars, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The galaxy was vast, filled with challenges, but we were no longer alone. We had each other, and together, we would face whatever came next. Our fight for survival had transformed into a fight for hope, a chance to shape the future of the galaxy. And I knew, deep down, that our journey was only just beginning. In the aftermath of the battle, As the dust settled and the echoes of our victory resonated throughout the fleet, a profound silence enveloped us. The vastness of space lay before us, dotted with the remnants of what had once been a formidable enemy. I stood on the bridge of our flagship, looking out into the stars, the reality of what we had accomplished washing over me. "Captain, the reports are coming in," Theo announced, his voice steady despite the chaos that had surrounded us just hours before. "We've secured the area, and our allies are reporting minimal losses." A wave of relief coursed through me. "That's good to hear. We fought hard for this, and it's a testament to our unity and resilience." I turned to face my crew, their faces dim by the flickering screens that surrounded us. "This victory is just the beginning. We've sent a message across the galaxy. Humanity and its allies will not be easily defeated." Marcus stepped forward, his expression serious. "What's next, Captain? The Zarkari and Thraxxians won't sit idle after this." I nodded, knowing the truth of his words. "We need to consolidate our power, reach out to other races, build our alliances. We've proven we can stand together. Now we need to solidify that strength." In the following days, we worked tirelessly to communicate with various species across the galaxy. Our coalition began to grow as news of our victory spread. Species that had once looked at humanity with skepticism now sought our partnership, eager to join our cause against the looming threats. I took part in discussions with ambassadors and military leaders, sharing strategies and knowledge. We discussed plans for joint training exercises and coordinated responses to potential threats. The energy in the room was electric as each race contributed its unique strengths, building a tapestry of cooperation that spanned the stars. But as we built our coalition, I couldn't shake the feeling that the Zarkari and Thraxxians were planning their next move. Intelligence reports began to trickle in, indicating that they were regrouping, rallying their remaining forces, and forming new alliances of their own. The quiet in the wake of our victory was merely the calm before the storm. As we prepared for what lay ahead, I often found myself reflecting on the path that had led us here. The challenges we faced had transformed us, not only as warriors but as individuals. Each battle had forged new friendships and strengthened old ones. We were no longer just soldiers, we were protectors of a burgeoning alliance. One evening, as I stood on the observation deck of our ship, looking out at the stars, Theo joined me. "What's on your mind, Captain?" I took a deep breath, considering my words carefully. "We've come a long way, haven't we? I never imagined I would lead a coalition like this, with so much at stake." Theo leaned against the railing, his gaze fixed on the endless expanse. "We've faced the darkness and come out stronger. It's what humanity does." I smiled at his unwavering belief. "You're right. We're adaptable, resilient, and capable of incredible things when we stand together. But we need to remain vigilant. The threat is far from over." Just then, a message came through on the comms. It was an emergency alert. A large fleet of Zarkari and Thraxxian ships had been spotted approaching one of our newly allied colonies. My heart raced as I processed the implications. "Prepare the fleet for immediate deployment," I ordered, my mind racing with strategies. "We'll meet them head-on and show them that we won't back down." As we moved swiftly to gather our forces, I felt the adrenaline surging through me once more. This was at the moment we would show the galaxy that our unity was not just a fleeting victory, but a lasting force. "Captain, we've received confirmation from the other species. They're ready to support us," Marcus reported, a hint of excitement in his voice. "Good. Let's make sure they know what they're up against." "We will stand firm and protect our allies," I replied, determination fueling my every word. As our ships launched into the depths of space, I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. We had become a beacon of hope in a galaxy fraught with uncertainty. The battles ahead would be fierce, but together we would face them with unwavering resolve. With the colony in sight, the enemy fleet loomed before us, a dark shadow against the backdrop of stars. As we prepared for engagement, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. This was more than just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the future of all who dared to defy oppression. "On my mark," I said, my voice steady and commanding. "Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for every world that believes in freedom. Let's show them what humanity and its allies are truly capable of." The moment arrived, and with it, the exhilarating rush of battle. Our ships surged forward, united in purpose, ready to carve our place in the galaxy as defenders of peace and protectors of freedom. As the first shots rang out, I knew this was only the beginning of our fight, and I was ready to lead us into whatever challenges awaited. Together, we would face the darkness, and together, we would triumph.